Chosen one, stop. This is urgent. Not because of fear, not because of panic, but because heaven rarely interrupts without purpose. Whatever you are about to watch can wait. Whatever you are about to scroll past can pause. This moment was not squeezed into your life by accident. It was placed here. 5 seconds left, and something in the unseen realm leaned forward and said, now. Do you feel that tightening in your chest? That quiet alert in your spirit? That's not anxiety, that's recognition. Chosen one, you've been carrying questions you never voiced, battles you never explained, and strength you didn't even know how you still had. You survived seasons that should have broken you. You walked through shadows where clarity disappeared and direction went silent. And yet here you are, still searching, still listening, still open. That alone tells me this message didn't just appear. You were guided to it. And chosen one, before we go deeper, pause for a moment, hit subscribe and comment, I receive if your spirit's already responding. Because this message is about to speak directly to you, not to the crowd, not to chance, but to the one who has been quietly marked for this exact timing. There has been an investigation around your life. You may not have seen it, but you felt it. Pressure without explanation, delays that didn't make sense, a strange awareness that something important was near, even while everything felt uncertain. Light always attracts attention, and purpose is never ignored by the unseen. That's why resistance followed you. That's why confusion tried to cloud your calling. But hear this clearly, resistance does not mean rejection, it means value. This is the revelation part. God is not late, God is precise, and this interruption is not random, it's protective. You were about to move without vital information, you were about to decide without full clarity, you were about to doubt something heaven is about to confirm. So time slowed down. 5 seconds left, not to scare you, but to align you. Chosen one, your pain was seen, your prayers were recorded, your obedience in silence was noted, and now comes divine validation. You were never forgotten, you were being prepared. What you thought was delay was actually positioning. What you thought was loss was refinement, and what you thought was weakness was endurance being forged. So stay right here, breathe, listen, because what's coming next is a truth hidden until now, a shift already in motion. And once you see it, you'll understand why missing this moment was never an option. Chosen one. Let's begin by understanding why this moment is being called an emergency, because heaven never uses urgency without meaning. An emergency does not always signal danger, it signals priority. It means something vital is happening that cannot be postponed without consequence. This is not about panic, it's about positioning. Right now, timing matters more than effort, and awareness matters more than movement. Have you felt that sense lately? That acting too quickly could cost you, but staying unaware could cost you even more? This message is urgent because you are standing at a crossroads where information must come before decision. In seasons like this, doing the wrong thing with good intentions can delay what God is trying to accelerate. That's why everything slowed you down instead of speeding you up. That's why plans stalled, momentum paused, and clarity seemed just out of reach. It wasn't resistance, it was restraint. Heaven was protecting you from acting without insight. Can you see now how certain delays may have actually been mercy? An emergency in the spiritual sense means heaven is drawing a circle around this moment and saying, pay attention here. There are windows that open quietly and close just as quietly, and they don't announce themselves twice. You are not being rushed, you are being alerted. There is a difference. God is not demanding action from you yet. He is inviting awareness. Awareness of what's shifting, awareness of what's ending, awareness of what's being prepared behind the scenes while you wondered why nothing was happening. Right now, your life is sensitive to direction. One decision made too early, one voice listened to too closely, one emotion acted on without discernment, and you step out of alignment. That's why this moment feels intense but calm at the same time. Urgency without fear, pressure without panic. That balance is intentional. Have you noticed how your intuition feels sharper lately? Chosen one. Let's talk gently but honestly about what you are about to miss, because this moment matters more than it appears on the surface. You were about to move on, scroll past, distract yourself, return to routine, without realizing that something important was aligning quietly in the background of your life. Alignment rarely announces itself with noise. It usually arrives as a pause, a nudge, a subtle interruption that asks for your attention before it asks for your action. Have you noticed how often the most important moments come disguised as ordinary ones? Some moments do not repeat because they are tied to who you are right now. Not who you were before the lessons and not who you'll be after the breakthrough, but who you are in this in-between space. That's why missing this wouldn't have meant failure. It would have meant continuation without clarity. And clarity is what saves time, energy, and unnecessary detours. Without it, we keep moving, but in circles. Without it, we keep trying, but without peace. Can you feel how exhausting that cycle has been? You were about to move forward carrying questions that were meant to be answered here. You were about to make decisions while ignoring the quiet unease that's been sitting in your chest. That unease isn't fear, it's intuition asking to be acknowledged. When God interrupts, it's often because clarity is available, but only for a moment. Not because He withholds, but because attention determines access. What we rush past, we rarely recognize. Think about how many times in your life you said, "I wish I had known then what I know now." This is one of those moments being offered before the regret, not after it. A checkpoint, a chance to recalibrate, a breath between chapters. You weren't about to miss a miracle, you were about to miss understanding. And understanding changes how you walk into what's next. Continuing without clarity doesn't stop progress, but it makes progress heavier. It adds confusion where there could have been confidence. It adds second guessing where there could have been peace. And heaven cares about how you arrive, not just where you end up. That's why this moment slowed you down. That's why your attention was captured. This isn't delay, it's precision. So let yourself stay here for a moment longer. Ask yourself, what has felt unclear lately? What decision feels close but unsettled? What part of me needs light before movement? Because what you were about to miss wasn't small, it was insight. And insight, once received, becomes protection. Chosen one, let's talk about interruptions, because they are one of the most misunderstood movements of God. When God interrupts without warning, it is never to frighten you, it is to redirect you. Interruptions happen when a pattern has gone on long enough, when a cycle has repeated so many times that continuing would only deepen confusion or delay purpose. Heaven doesn't interrupt progress, it interrupts misalignment. And right now, something in your life reached that point where continuation without awareness would have cost you more than a pause ever could. Have you noticed how certain patterns keep circling back? No matter how much effort you put in, God always starts gently. He whispers before He intervenes. Signs appear softly at first, subtle discomfort, quiet nudges, repeated thoughts, conversations that strike a nerve, doors that hesitate before opening. Those were not obstacles. They were invitations to look closer. But when those gentle signals go unnoticed, attention becomes necessary. Not because you failed, but because your destiny matters too much to be left to autopilot. Isn't it interesting how we often recognize the signs only after an interruption forces us to stop? This interruption is not punishment, it's precision. God interrupts to save time you don't realize you're about to lose. He interrupts to protect you from choices that feel right emotionally, but lead nowhere spiritually. And He interrupts to realign you with the version of yourself you were becoming before survival took over. That's why this moment feels sudden. Sudden doesn't mean careless, it means intentional. Heaven moves decisively when alignment is at stake. Think about your current path. Think about the routines, relationships, habits, or thought patterns you've been repeating. Some of them once served you, some of them kept you safe. But safety is not the same as calling, and comfort is not the same as growth. God interrupts when comfort becomes a cage. Could it be that what felt like stability was actually stagnation? When attention is required, God creates space for it. He slows things down, He disrupts your rhythm, He places a moment directly in front of you that you can't ignore. That's what this is, a divine pause. Not to shame you, but to awaken you. not to confuse you, but to clarify you. Have you felt that sudden alertness, that sense that something important is being highlighted right now? So don't resist the interruption. Don't rush past it or label it as inconvenience. This is redirection in its purest form, a chance to step off a path that has gone on long enough and onto one that leads where your spirit has been trying to go all along. Because when God interrupts, it's not because you're off course completely, it's because you're close enough to be corrected. And closeness is a sign of favor. Chosen one, pay close attention to what's happening inside you right now, because the most powerful shifts are rarely loud. They don't arrive with chaos or spectacle. They begin quietly, internally, almost gently, like light slowly filling a dark room. What's shifting in this season isn't happening around you first. It's happening within you. And that's why it may feel subtle, yet deeply significant. Have you noticed how the noise in your mind is starting to soften, even if your circumstances haven't changed yet? The first sign of this shift is that confusion begins to lift. Not all at once, not dramatically, but enough for you to breathe again. Questions that once felt tangled start to separate. Emotions that felt overwhelming begin to make sense. You're not suddenly certain about everything, but you're no longer lost in everything either. That fog that kept you second-guessing your instincts is thinning, and with clarity comes calm. Can you feel that small but real sense of steadiness returning? This internal shift is God recalibrating your perception. When clarity returns, it doesn't always come as answers. It comes as discernment. You start to know what no longer fits. You recognize which voices carry peace and which carry pressure. You feel a quiet confidence forming, even before the external evidence appears. That's because clarity always arrives internally before it manifests outwardly. Direction is born in the spirit long before it shows up in circumstances. Your next step is becoming clearer than it was before. Not the entire path, not the full plan, but the next step. And that's all you need right now. God rarely reveals everything at once because faith grows through movement, not certainty. What matters is that the hesitation you once felt is being replaced by a gentle knowing. Have you noticed how one option feels lighter than the others? How one direction brings peace instead of pressure? This shift may also feel like emotional honesty. You're more aware of what you truly want, what you truly need, and what you're no longer willing to carry. That's not selfishness, it's alignment. When confusion lifts, authenticity rises. You stop forcing what drains you. You stop chasing what doesn't resonate, and you start honoring what brings life back into your spirit. Don't rush this shift or try to label it too quickly. Let it settle, let it root. Internal clarity is fragile at first, and it grows best in stillness. Protect your peace, guard your awareness, and trust that what's becoming clear now will soon become visible. Because when God shifts something internally, it's only a matter of time before your outer world follows. Chosen one, this is where everything begins to change in a practical, tangible way. When clarity settles and direction begins to appear, the way you move through life shifts quietly but powerfully. You stop reacting and you start choosing. That difference may sound subtle, but it changes everything. Reaction is driven by pressure, emotion, and urgency. Choice is guided by awareness, intention, and peace. Have you noticed how exhausting it has been to live in reaction mode, always responding to what happens instead of deciding what comes next? As this moment takes root in you, pressure begins to ease, not because challenges disappear, but because direction appears. Pressure thrives in uncertainty. It grows when you feel unsure which way to go, when every option feels risky, when every step feels like a guess. But direction narrows the noise. It doesn't answer every question, but it answers the most important one. Where do I go from here? And once you know that, even partially, your nervous system can finally rest. This shift affects your conversations, your decisions, your pace. You begin to pause before responding. You feel less compelled to explain yourself to everyone. You stop rushing into agreements or commitments that don't align. That's not withdrawal, it's wisdom. You're learning to move from a centered place instead of a pressured one. Have you noticed how saying no feels easier lately? Or how saying yes feels more intentional? Fear loses its influence here. Not because fear disappears completely, but because it no longer leads. Fear thrives when the future feels like a threat. Confidence grows when the future feels guided. This moment gives you permission to move forward without bracing for impact. You may not see the entire road, but you trust the direction you're facing. And trust changes how fear shows up. It becomes information instead of control. This clarity also restores your sense of agency. You remember that you are not powerless, not stuck, not at the mercy of circumstances. You have choice. And when your choices are aligned, they carry weight. They create momentum. One grounded decision leads to another, and slowly life begins to feel less chaotic and more intentional. Doesn't that feel like relief just thinking about it? Moving forward with confidence doesn't mean moving fast. It means moving sure. It means letting your steps be guided rather than forced. This moment is teaching you how to trust yourself again. Not ego, not impulse, but the inner wisdom that has been quietly forming through every lesson you've survived. So take this with you. Let it influence how you respond, how you plan, how you breathe. Because from this point on, you're not just reacting to life, you're choosing your path. And that choice is where peace begins. Chosen one, this is the moment that matters most. What you do now, right now, will shape everything that follows. Timing has brought you here for a reason, and heaven is giving you a pause, a sacred pause, to prepare before action. The first thing you must do immediately is stay present. Don't let the mind rush ahead. Don't let the past pull you backward. Don't allow pressure or fear to dictate your next move. Presence is your power. Can you feel it? The subtle stillness beneath the storm, the quiet center in the chaos? That's where clarity is waiting. Presence is not passive, it is active attention. It is allowing yourself to notice, to feel, to receive before you respond. Right now, your spirit is aligning with wisdom that cannot be hurried. Decisions made in haste rarely carry the weight of destiny. And yet, staying present requires discipline, especially when impatience or anxiety whispers that action is required. Ask yourself, am I acting from clarity or am I reacting from uncertainty? That question alone can redirect your next step toward alignment instead of accident. The second step is to receive clarity before acting. Clarity is a gift. It is not always immediate, but it is essential. It comes as discernment, as insight, as a subtle knowing that feels almost invisible until it suddenly solidifies into certainty. This is why pauses exist in life, because decisions made without awareness often need to be unmade later, and that costs time, energy, and sometimes even faith. Heaven is giving you an advantage right now by slowing you down. Let yourself accept it. Let your spirit breathe before you move. Can you feel how the tension begins to lift simply by slowing down and waiting? Once clarity is received, then action follows, but not blind action, not impulsive movement. Action now must be intentional, guided, and wise. The steps you take from this moment forward will carry resonance far beyond today. They will ripple through the months and years ahead, shaping outcomes you cannot yet see. That is why awareness right now protects your future. What you notice today, what you allow yourself to perceive, becomes the filter for every choice that follows. Do not underestimate the sacredness of the pause. Don't rush. Don't convince yourself that movement equals progress. True progress begins in alignment, in awareness, in the quiet inner approval of your spirit before your body moves. This is how God ensures that your next chapter unfolds with intention instead of accident, with peace instead of pressure, with certainty instead of chaos. So chosen one, breathe, anchor yourself in this present. Receive what is being revealed, let your mind settle, let your heart open, and then with patience, with wisdom, with divine timing, step forward. Because what you do immediately, what you allow yourself to see and discern right now, protects, prepares, and positions your future in ways even your past struggles could never have. This is your moment, and heaven is watching every breath.